All righty. Welcome, everyone, and welcome back. We're excited to be broadcasting through December on Tune In Tuesday. And I'm feeling very fortunate today to have Cindy and, well, I should say the lovely Cindy and the lovely Mallie with us. Mallie is wanting to lie down and snuggle.
There's Mellie's head.
Mallie's head. She is there. She's just like, but it's nap time. So
yeah, I worked.
There you go. So I'm going to give everybody a chance to come online. And while you do so, I'll just let you know if you want to ask questions that we'll ask live on air. If you're on Zoom, feel free to click the Q&A button and pop your questions in there. Or if you're not sure how to figure that out, there's also a chat button. Either one of those will work. And then if you're following us on Facebook Live, you can just throw your questions into the comment section and we will take those as well. So I'm just bringing that up here because I can't bring it up until we're live. But with that, I'm going to hand it over to Cindy. Cindy, welcome. And tell us a little bit about how you came to be a PADS client. How did you find out about PADS? How did you discover us?
Absolutely. So I work in telecommunications, and I know a gentleman named Mike Edgar. He's a manufacturer who works with us. And he would always bring the dogs to our meetings. So we would sit there, and honestly, I focused more on the dogs than I was on whatever we were talking about. And shortly after, working with Mike, I had a stroke. And so talking to Mike and talking to him about the program, he said, you should just put your name on the list. And I did. And then, of course, you go about life. But it was through him, through work, and actually getting to see what he did with the dogs before I ever even needed Mallie. So it was nice. I believe I met 2 or 3 of his dogs during that time.
That's amazing. Well, Mike and Sam have been involved with us for a long, long time. So what a cool connection. And
absolutely.
And so you touched on you had a stroke and decided that Mallie might be a good fit to kind of help mitigate some of that. So tell us a little bit about how Mallie helps you. What does she do for you?
She provides so much value outside of what she was trained for. Mellie helps me a lot in public. That's a big piece for me, just, helping me with things. I tend to, for whatever reason, because a lot of times I'm on arm crutches, I'll drop things. It just seems like a skill I have. I tend to drop everything that I have. So, I would have to figure out how to scale down my crutches to get to the floor, to get whatever the item you need, or even forget about it. So when I'm out and about, she'll pick up things for me. She opens and closes doors. I don't, you mentioned you've used a cane. For me, I'm in arm crutches. So if I go to open a door, my arms, I got to get it out of my crutch. I've got to open the door. I got to hold the other crutch, open the door. So it doesn't seem like a big process, but for me, it's a huge process. Yeah. And so now I don't even think about it. Mellie will go up to the button and she'll push the button. So we almost have a rhythm now. I don't even now almost think about what we're doing. And, one of the things she wasn't trained for that she is just born with is her knowing when I need her, when I need pressure on my legs. When I have pain in my legs, she just like right now, she's like, she thinks she's a baby puppy. So right now she's physically laying on me. And so she innately just knows she has to do that. And the sensitivity and the kindness she has. And she also takes away people asking me so many questions in public. So for me, it was always challenging. We were talking earlier. Everywhere I go, people love to ask what's wrong with me. And I don't think anything is, but they love to ask that question. And with Mellie, it's nice because they'll ask questions about her instead of me. So lots. She provides me so much value.
Well, and it's just such a lovely thing to, instead of asking super awkward personal questions about yourself, being able to have a conversation about a beautiful dog, right? Which is such a, pleasant experience in kind of different contrasts. So That is very, very cool. So for those of you that have just joined us, I see our numbers just keep climbing here. So welcome. Thank you for tuning in with us today. We're here with Cindy and Mallee from Calgary, where I understand it's quite chilly right now, although it's quite chilly here too.
There you
Oh,
are, Mel.
Mallie's like, I'm going to be on camera. And I see lots of people chiming in and letting us know where they're watching from. So hello, Terry and Jolynn and Lise, thanks so much for joining us, everyone. If you have questions for Cindy or for Mallee, please feel free to throw them in the comment section on Facebook or in the Q&A box on Zoom. So thanks for taking time out of your day. This is our December Tune In Tuesday series that we're doing. So every week through December, we're going to be having a different guest on. So with that, how long have you been partnered with Mallee, Cindy? When did you go through team training?
We went through team training at the beginning of the year, this year. So we've been working I tell everybody it's a year, it's almost a year, but close to a year we've been training together. And I'm just trying to think well, we just graduated, but we've really been together since I think the beginning of March.
Nice.
Mhm.
And so tell me a little bit about I know everything has been different. It was for me as well with COVID and team training. What was that experience like going through team training with a PADS dog? And have you had a dog before? Is this a brand new experience for you or?
No, I've had dogs before and I've had larger dogs before. I've never had a shedding dog before. So that was definitely a new experience for me to learn that I think Miranda put it, they have two shedding times a year, like winter and summer, like spring and summer. So that was the only new part to me. But no, she's been such an absolute blessing. And my other dog, Ted, is a small toy poodle and just loves her to death. And my youngest got a cat and the cat just loves Mellie. She's got the kindest heart.
Yeah, before we came on, before we went live, the cat was swatting at Mally's tail through the chair. So
Yeah,
you get along.
we had to put a stop to that because that's a bit distracting for her.
Excellent. Well, we've got lots of people chiming in, sharing where they're tuning in from. So people on the island and from Chilliwack, and so a couple people also waiting for their own PADS dog that are on our wait list.
Oh,
So we're so glad that you're here and watching. And so Lori's asking, how long did it take before you felt like a team?
I thought it would be right away. Mellie was a lot more confident than I was. She was also trained to be a wheelchair user, like, or to be beside a wheelchair user. So it took a little bit of time for us to readjust to our pace. I would say I fell in love with her instantly when we felt like a team. I would say about 3 months in, where I felt like everything was very fluid. It took a little bit of time more on my behalf because I knew the commands, but there was times I go, okay, she's doing this, but oh yeah, I said that. So now I feel like our language is locked in. That's really when I felt like it just felt very natural to us. Now I truly don't even know how I would function without her. I have anxiety when we're not together. So for me, I don't like not being with her anymore. So we're really a team at this point.
Yeah, it's a strange thing. I went out to whelp a litter of puppies this weekend, and my son was off work, so I thought I would leave Cadence. And the entire time, I felt like I had left like my keys or my cell phone somewhere. Like it was just this weird feeling of like I've forgotten
Yeah,
something somewhere
like a
that
baby in the car. That's how I always feel. I'm like, okay, she's got
exactly.
to be right here.
Where is she? So yeah, I
Yeah.
totally understand. Well, that's very cool. And I think for oh my goodness, we have a lot of waiting clients on today. Welcome everyone. We're so glad that you're here. And feel free to ask questions because the more prepared you are going into your match and team training, the better it's going to be. I think that question about how long did it take to feel like a team, it's important to note too that it can be very, very different between dogs and individuals. Some dogs take a long time to bond.
Mhm.
Other dogs are like, I'm your best friend right away. And neither one is right or wrong. It's just like people, right? Like you're going to meet people in your life that just you instantly click with, and other people that if you stick it out with them, you have like the truest friend on earth, but you need to
Yeah.
invest a little more time to kind of get to that real place of kind of trust and kind of that really kind of symbiotic relationship. I think about people in my life that there are couples I know that were love at first sight, and then there are others that were friends for decades before they, became a couple. And I think both are incredibly rich and beautiful. And it's the same with our dogs. So that bonding period, there's lots of practical things you can do to kind of help support it. And our trainers work through that. But it doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong if it doesn't happen instantly. So I always
Oh,
like to
absolutely.
prepare people that, some of the bonds will take a little bit longer. So with that, I'm just going to check here and see. Sorry, the way it scrolls is a little funny. I want to make sure I'm not missing questions while I ramble away. Um, there's a lot of, it now gives me alerts for every time somebody comes on. Lori's asking, do you feel safer now that you have your partner?
I do. I absolutely do feel safer because when I go out, there's a lot of times people aren't paying attention. Like when we're walking in a mall or if we're at a grocery store, so many people are on their phones. They're texting, they're not paying attention. So I would get my arm crutches knocked out all the time. And people are surprised by that comment, but it happened, probably happens every time I go out. So when she's with me, I feel safer from a standpoint that she's paying attention and she's going to create space. But would she protect me? Absolutely not. Like she's submissive. So you can't expect that really my job's to protect her if somebody went into her space because the reality is she's been taught to move around and to back off when people are in her space. So I'm also as cognizant about keeping her safe as she is keeping me. So half the time when we're walking in the mall, I couldn't even pay, I have no idea what's going on because she and I are connected. That's all I'm really thinking about. So I don't worry as much now about being safe. I just know that I am.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing too. I know one of the Pads dogs that I raised, super, super gentle soul, and many of our watchers today know Merlot. She's an accredited facility dog in Saskatchewan, and just like the sweetest, gentlest soul. But there was one time that somebody actually was threatening towards me, and she
Oh,
just let out like the biggest, deepest bark. And she's not a barker at all. She doesn't even bark at the doorbell. But it's interesting how the dogs can kind of pick up on a vibe and just be like, I'm just going to have something to say here. And the person turned and walked away because I guess they didn't want to find out if she was serious or not.
yeah, she'll
But
do a huff with her mouth. So if somebody is really in our space, she won't bark. I've only heard it once, but she will do this bear sound with her mouth closed and she'll puff her cheeks up. That's
yeah,
when I know somebody's too close and we need to move out of here.
yeah. Oh, that's very cool. So we've got Sarah says she's so adorable. Yes, she is.
She is,
And
and I'll hold her head up because she's clearly too tired.
and if I recall correctly, Molly was from our exotic woods litter, and I think they were all black except for her. I think she was the
She was
only.
the only, yeah, she was the
Yeah,
only little blondie. Aren't
yeah,
you? Are you a blondie? Oh,
yeah.
there you go.
So, um, so with that, are there things that you're able to do now or that you're taking on that you didn't before, Molly?
Yeah, I'm getting out more into the world. I found I wanted to go somewhere, come back. I wanted to go do the thing I was doing and then come back. So now I find that her and I are going out and exploring things because obviously with a service dog, they need their exercise, they need to do everything any other dog needs to do. They need to have fun. So I find myself getting out more, getting, seeing and meeting people, going for longer walks, getting out in nature. So I'm doing a lot more of that. I'll get in the wheelchair now and we'll just go. And so she's just, happy to be her. And I get out and go see people and meet different and do different things.
And Calgary is such a wonderful city in terms of like trails and pathways and all that kind of stuff for getting out with a dog. I was there for a while in the spring this year and was just blown away by how many kind of what you call dog parks and what we call dog parks are two very different things. Here, they tend to be these small little enclosures with chain link fences around them and
Oh,
gravel, as opposed to, the networks of trails and such that you folks have in Calgary. So I'm a little jealous, but it's fantastic for a service dog, especially with chairs, because a lot of the trails are paved. I'm assuming because of the snow, it makes it easier to maintain
it
them.
does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most are good. Right now it's a bit tricky when it packs down. So we have to wait it out until it melts a little bit. But yeah, 90% of the time they're pretty good.
Yeah, that's fantastic. All right, so I'm just checking for questions. So for those of you that have just joined us, we're here with Cindy and Mallee from Calgary. They're one of our newest service dog teams. They've been working together since about March. And Mallee is, how old is Mallee? 3?
But she turned 4 on the 4th of November.
Yeah, so she just turned 4. So she's a yellow Labrador who is bound and determined to have a nap during Tune In Tuesday, which is
I've tried, and every time her head just goes right down.
the curse blat. It's all good, Mellie. You need your rest. You do you.
Yeah.
So, um, is there anything you want to share with us? What is it like been becoming part of this PADS community?
Amazing. It started with Mike, so I had a pretty good feeling going into this. And since starting, I have felt so welcomed from every single person at PADS, from training with Miranda and her patients and Rob, over Zoom. So we were the first, I believe, class to do virtual. And, that was a little bit different, but it was also good because we were able to take our time, learn our skills, learn the dog, and to go out. But since joining the community, I honestly, I couldn't even be more thankful for everybody at PADS because there's not one touch point that I've had. Like every touch point's been amazing. And everybody's just cheering us on, even just for their graduation, we got a box for Mellie and I cried for hours because it was just the most thoughtful thing I've ever seen. And Mellie and I were just so excited to have the things. So there's, like I said, every single touch point has just made such a difference in my life. I think you guys all come from just a very unique place. You're all the same, just good, generous human beings.
Yeah, it is a very, very cool community. And I love that the box meant so much to you. There was a lot of people that kind of different people that contributed to it, whether it's our social media followers that donated some of the toys that went in there, and our big dog, little dog friends donated the treats and all that good stuff. So I'm
Oh,
glad. I sat in my living room and ironed the bandanas that one of our volunteers sewed
oh,
for us. So yeah, so it was definitely a community effort. So I'm glad that that made you both smile. We have a question from Eleanor. She says, how does it work when you're in a wheelchair and Mallie beside you? Is she able to stay close enough yet not get hurt by the wheels?
absolutely. So, because she was trained for that, she knows to create the distance. And so, say if we're going through a small space, she will move in behind. And so, or if we're going into elevator, she's taught to do a go through. So she knows exactly what space she needs, and she's highly aware. And if she's not connected, I actually take the time to stop, do some obedience so that she's paying attention because she's still a dog. She's still going to get distracted by something. So, and that's when she could get hurt. So if I ever see her kind of her brain wandering off, we just stop, refocus, and get back to it. I've not had a problem. We did have more challenges at the beginning with my arm crutches, but I have a slow pace. And so she wasn't doing anything wrong. I just had to learn what kind of leash would work for my arm crutch for her. So yeah, like with the wheelchair, she's never had an issue. And I find now too, if people try to get too close, if I'm in the wheelchair, she does that creating space thing. And I don't know if she's been taught that, but she seems to do that. She'll go semicircle in front to say, hey, we're walking.
That's very cool. One of the things we start our puppies with very young, more so pre-COVID, obviously, because our puppy classes have been few and far between, is actually working even the young puppies around chairs and just to really just having people, even if it's just volunteers moving around in chairs in the class. So the dogs get used to seeing them and how they move and how they turn, et cetera. So they start to kind of become fluid with that. And, I think I mean, in my chair, Cadence, I think she's had her toes pinched once, and she recovered very quickly because she's had so many positive experiences. But for the most part, she's very, very good about moving out of the way. And that one time that she got pinched, it was just we were in too tight of a space, and a door kind of closed on one side of me, and
Right.
this was kind of like we both kind of got crunched a little bit. And so I think it's one of those things that we work really hard on because we want our dogs to have really positive experiences with them. Mallie's brother Oroko is saying hello from Vancouver Island,
Okay.
with his partner Lindsay there. He's also a service dog, and trained actually with Mallie in Calgary, with Miranda. And then Lori's asking, do you have any advice for clients that are waiting?
I know it's hard. And for me, for some reason, I was able to, the 3 years passed fast because of my condition. I was spending a lot of time in physical therapy and doing those things. And when Mellie came along, it was the best timing ever because I had had a stroke in 2017, and then in 2020 in September, a drunk driver hit me head on the highway, and I was not in a great mental place because I was just stressed out, and I back at square one for my physical therapy. So I was a bit frustrated. So I got the notice that Mellie was coming, and I was in shock. So I got over what was going on. I focused on her and I didn't really wallow in what was going on about being re-injured. So I would say just have patience, the time will come, but also know that the right dog pairing with you is so critical. I met actually other dogs when I met Miranda. She had a pack of cute dogs, and for some reason, Mallie just targeted right to me. She's like, "Nope, you guys aren't going to go near her." And I tell everybody I felt like that day she picked me, and she wasn't going to have me picking anybody else. She made sure she knew. So just have a lot of patience actually, and spend time watching videos, like training videos, kind of watch TikTok. I will watch a lot of service dog videos, and you'll kind of get to know the flow of how everything works. Follow everything on pads and put the work in. Like when it is your time, put the heavy work in. It's so well worth it because that's why your relationship will feel good once you have it. And then once you have your service dog, you also have to understand it is going to take time to bond. All of a sudden, you have somebody who's every single where with you, including wanting to watch you bath and on the toilet. So you have to understand that your relationships is like that day on moving forward. And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I think you touch on something really important, which is that commitment, piece, because I think sometimes, not often, but occasionally we have folks that come in and just think a dog is going to solve all the problems for me.
No,
And the dog is going to solve a lot of problems, but it also is going to create new challenges, right? It's going to create, like, how do I fly with a service dog? How do I, book that ticket? How do I transport dog food? How do I deal with the public wanting to tell me about their dog all the time? For some folks that have an invisible disability, once they get their service dog, there's a lot of attention that comes with that they didn't used to get. So I think for folks with a physical disability, we talked at the beginning about, has always been kind of a level of attention, but it's not always positive. So that's a nice flip. But if you've managed to kind of go through the world with your disability kind of unknown, the transition to having a dog and having all that attention can be challenging. But probably most importantly is the commitment to the dog. They are dogs, they are not robots. And so to
and have feelings.
have feelings and to maintain skills, and for those folks, that are watching that have our service dogs, I think most of them would echo my feeling that COVID has been a challenging time because our dogs are not using their skills necessarily in the same way that they would during non-COVID times. So I know the first time I went to ask Cadence to do a door button after months and months of not, I realized there was a gap that I had missed and I hadn't practiced on anything. And so suddenly I had this dog who was like, what does button mean? And so we were almost retraining from scratch because she had
Yeah,
forgotten, whereas other things that we use every day, like her retrieves, et cetera, have stayed sharp. So it's a lot of work to keep up the skills so that you have that high performing dog. It's well worth it. And the bond, of course, is worth it. But um,
absolutely.
I think that's something that's important for people to realize is that it's it's um, it's worth every ounce of the work, but it is work. So
Absolutely. And you have to understand that, like anything, if you want their skills to stay sharp, you have to do the obedience training. You have to keep those skills sharp and do the things. Sometimes when you're tired, you just got to take that half of an hour to do some of even of the basic things for them. Luckily with Mellie and I'm pretty busy in the world. So she goes everywhere, to the YMCA with me, to the pool. She goes to work, she goes to wherever we go. And so luckily with her skills, they get to keep sharp all the time. But you do have to put in the work because certain things you'll forget the commands because you're not using them enough.
I'm laughing. Your grandbaby Hudson is watching and wants to know, does Mallie like to play with toys?
Hattie, Pickle, they're both Pickle. He does like to play with the toys, and his favorite toy right now, or her favorite toy right now, is the blue one she got in the box from her graduation, because you can put a treat and sometimes peanut butter in there. And we freeze that, and then she likes to play with that.
Those are fantastic toys. Cadence may have gotten one too. Um, so Eleanor's asking, when new things happen, for example, a worsening of condition, does the PADS team retrain the dog to cope with this, or does a new dog get placed? I can probably take that one. So if someone's disability changes, our goal is always to train the dog to adapt to whatever that is and support it as best they can. I can't think of a scenario where the dog was pulled and replaced with a different dog, but certainly we've had the situation where, for example, a client, their first dog, they had a pulling dog because they were in a manual chair and the dog was trained to pull the wheelchair. And then they transitioned to a power chair. And so the next dog they got was specifically trained to work with a power chair. We've also had clients that, were able to regain some of their mobility as a result of having the dog. And so they needed a dog that would be able to brace instead of just working with a chair. Interestingly, Cadence, when she was trained for me, was trained primarily as a bracing dog. And then I started using my chair more. And so that was more just kind of supporting alongside as I was starting to kind of use that and figuring out a few things, because my chair has a weird adapter on the front. So she couldn't figure out, how do I do here when there's a wheel where I should be sitting? And so there was a little bit of adapting, but the training staff is really great with that. So it's very individualized. So and not all of our clients have progressive disabilities. And so some folks have, for example, like a spinal cord injury where their disability is what it is and it's not likely to change over time. And then there's other folks that have conditions like MS or various things like that, where it will progress and potentially get worse over time. And so we try to, when we know that's the case, place a dog with them that we know is going to be able to kind of roll with the punches and maybe do some kind of more different work down the road, or a dog that really likes learning new things. And that's part of our training too, is teaching our clients how to teach their dogs, so that if they want to teach them a new skill or they want to adapt a skill that they have, that they've got the tools in their toolkit to be able to do that. Okay, one more question, and then I just want to be mindful of Cindy's time here. So I'm just going to ask this last one. Are people in public allowed to pat your dog?
No. When she came into my world, even at work, it's hard because she is so cute and she's so social, that she wants and seeks that connection with other people too. But I did find that if I did allow that, it would regress her focus on me. So the answer is no. At the beginning, I felt I needed to only at work really allow people to. When it comes to kids, I'm a little bit more forgiving with that. And if I feel like I want to stop and do a training exercise with Mallie, I will. So, I'll put Mallie on a sit. I'll make sure she's focused on me, and then I'll make sure that they don't touch her head. They can only pat her back. So I find if people with children want to take the time to get me to get her settled in place, I will, but it's very dependent on time, but 99.9% no adults because we're working. I also got to get places, and it really does distract her very much so. So most times, no.
Yeah. And every dog is an individual, but the general rule is never ever ask to pet a working dog because they are working, they have a job to do. And different dogs are different. I know Cadence is one that it kind of fills her cup and she doesn't get super distracted by people. She tends to be pretty handler focused. And so, but that really comes down to the individual. And I'm always very wanting to also protect service dogs overall by saying, I'll make an exception in this scenario, but I tend to usually make those exceptions for like my friends or my family as opposed to
Right.
random strangers or children. If I'm standing in a checkout line and there's a child who usually tells their parent that they're not allowed to pet the working dog, which I love, then I'll say, hey, will you help me with a training exercise? And then, exactly that is, you can pet her on her back or her ears or whatever. So, yeah.
I've had people dive in. I've had
Oh, yeah.
a few people dive in without any notice. And that was an opportunity for me to, yeah, no, please don't do that. And I have a lot of folks who, and I think I told you this at the beginning, who will come up to me and go, I know I can't pet her, but I'd really love to. And I said, and then I just say to them, yeah, I know that would be so nice. She's so sweet.
Yeah.
And then we just leave it at that.
Yeah. One of the things we do, we did this education program for kids this summer and over Zoom. But one of the things we talked about is one of my favorite things is when somebody just walks by and says, what a lovely dog or what a beautiful dog, because it's a way to engage and to do something with whatever that energy is you're feeling about, I want to pet that dog. But then it's a really pleasant experience for me because it doesn't interrupt my day. But who doesn't like hearing something nice about their dog,
Oh,
right?
I
Like,
do.
it's lovely. So it's just a really positive way that if you feel the need to interact with a service dog and their handler, that it's a really pleasant way to do so rather than, it's sort of like saying, good morning to somebody as you walk past them on the street. It's just a nice thing to do or say. And I feel like sometimes people just feel the need to do or say something. And by giving them something that's, that's appropriate, that's a really kind of, I don't know any service dog handlers that would object to hearing that their dog is.
Not at all. You love hear. I love hearing it, even if I'm pretending I can't hear you. I do love hearing how beautiful she is.
Yeah.
Melly.
So, well, thank you
Oh,
everyone for joining us. I
Melly.
see a
Good.
lot of faces on here. And
Yeah.
we so appreciate all of you and that you're tuning in. And then next week, I'm super excited, back by very popular demand, is Mallie's trainer. Miranda is going to be coming online from Calgary.
Oh,
So she'll be on next week, just after Christmas.
she's
So
amazing, by the way.
she's phenomenal. And she's a lot of fun. And so I'm looking forward to that because she always has fun things to show us and share. So if you would like to get a notification of that, you can sign up on the website, pads.ca/tune in Tuesday. And there's dashes between the tune and the in and the Tuesday. And we send out the notifications every week of who our upcoming guest is. So if you sign up for that list, you'll get that notice. And thank you again, Cindy. This was just a treat.
Thank
And it was
you.
so lovely to actually finally meet you for me as well. So thanks for sharing your time with us today.
Thank you
And
so much for having us. We really, truly appreciate it. And thank you
yeah,
for everybody. She's dead asleep.
it's all good.
Yeah.
So to everyone, have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas. And I hope everybody's going to have a break. And but I hope that it's safe and filled with the people closest to you during this
Absolutely.
time. So everybody stay safe, and we will see you after Christmas.
Thank
Bye
you
now.
guys so much.